back.
Yep.
Hey, what's in that box over there? It looks like a giant mascot outfit.
That is Clay Cat.
What's Clay Cat?
Clay Cat was our mascot forever here.
What's the maximum height for Clay Cat?
Clay Cat, when I first bought him, I had him made by a company in Canada, and it had a ice pack vest that you put on, because Clay Cat is very hot.
Oh yeah, it looks like it.
In the summertime.
Yeah.
But Clay Cat, you gotta look through his mouth and his eyes to see him, but he's pretty cool.
All right, hang on.
But
Let me
he
just help you out
stinks.
here. This is how you sell. Hold this.
He stinks.
Yeah, hold that out. Yep, there you go.
Oh. Hashtag save Paris.
And now for Dinner with Racers with your hosts, Ryan Eversley and Sean Heckman.
Placeholder radio sound. I'm a driver and I'm very angry. The sound of a driver on the radio during a race.
What do the following tracks have in common? They're all dirt tracks. They're all dirt tracks in California. They're all dirt tracks in California on the state-owned land.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Very well. How long you guys been coming here?
20 years. 15 years? 18, 20 years.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, have a great time
You
tonight.
too.
Thank you.
During COVID, how much of an impact on you did not coming out here have?
I had a lot of loss of income. It was really tough. It was really tough.
How long have you been coming to Paris?
Since 1996, the first race that it was open.
How long have you been at Paris Auto Speedway?
This is our 25th year.
Okay.
We opened the first weekend of March to celebrate our 25th anniversary and got one race in, and 4 days later we're told to close your doors.
Do most tracks of this size and nature have any sort of budget hidden away for something like a pandemic or an economic shutdown?
I've never lived through a pandemic. I mean, I didn't know what it was. Tracks like this don't have reserves.
Yeah.
They live week to week, month to month.
So we came here in 2020.
Yes, you
And at that time, what did you think the future of this track was?
do. Slim and none.
Really? And that was in June, 3 months into the pandemic.
Yeah.
So from March 2020, when things shut down here in California, how long were you shut down here?
14 months.
14 months
14 months.
of no income. So Governor Holcomb of Indiana issued this sort of phase one stay-at-home order here in Indiana towards the second half of March. What was then the timeline for you guys in terms of shutting down?
We had scheduled our opening night, and that was our plan. His stage 2 started then. We weren't listed, so we felt that we could open, and we were wrong.
At that time in 2020, public events in the state of Indiana were shut down, and you said, nah.
I believe my racetrack was the only business in the state of Indiana to receive a cease and desist order from the governor.
When it came back, how big of a deal was it?
Oh, it was so exciting for everybody. Especially the first month that we came back to the races, people were like hugging us. They were so happy that we were open.
So in March of 2020, how much debt did you have into this facility?
0.
And in April of 2021, how much debt did you have into this place?
$500,000.
In our big June 2020 trip, we went to tracks all over the country. Road courses, big tracks, little tracks, dirt, paved, you name it. Of the people we could actually get an interview with, you were by far the sort of most non-compliant in this process. And we asked some of the other tracks that we met with, what do you think would happen if somebody was to defy an order or publicly speak out? All of them said basically the same thing. You are going to have problems for the next several years.
So one of the things that we noticed is our property taxes went up in a much higher contrast to other property owners.
Right.
So I have appealed my property taxes for 2 years straight.
When you were able to start having events, what was the reaction like from the local community?
The response from the community was overwhelming. We had our highest attended races that we'd ever had, probably since our first year opening. We had great attendance then, but everybody wanted to get out. They were itching to get out and eat food that wasn't homemade. It was great.
Your first few events coming back were really well attended.
Yeah, I mean, we hit record numbers. I mean, for about 4 months after we reopened. And I thought, my God, what did we do right? We've been doing it right. The people were starved for entertainment.
Yeah, just wanted to do something.
Yeah.
So tell me about when they reopened here.
It was awesome. I mean, we got to come back to race, got to come see the sprint cars race. It was pretty crazy because this place was packed.
I was not willing to walk away from my investment the way my brothers were willing to. I've gotten my investment back plus a return, but I had to work for it. And I had to work over 27 years for it.
So you'd say it was a happy ending then, right?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
All right, credits. Wait, were you being sarcastic?
Yes.
Oh.
People that don't know what's going on, the Department of Water Resources, to manage the dam at Lake Paris, is building a massive 2.5-mile project right along the Motor Expressway, starting sometime next year. So we're still sitting here in 2022, waiting for this project to start. When the project starts, there's going to be massive traffic centered around the Motor Expressway during this construction project. It was originally supposed to be a 3-year project. We now know it's an 8 or 9-year project. It's going to impact the ingress and egress of the speedway, but we're trying to work with these folks to figure out how we can coexist.
Growing controversy over the Paris Dam modernization project. The work was supposed to be done by now.
Local business owners say the construction is hurting them.
From high-speed races to the live music acts not only get the blood pumping, but also help to draw thousands to the Paris Fairgrounds annually. But a construction project on the Paris Dam directly behind the venue has pitted the businesses on the property against the California Department of Water Resources.
So we were thinking of episodes that we wanted to do this year, and we decided to look into dirt track stuff. And then you had an idea.
I contacted Sean because, for, 22 months, I couldn't talk to anybody about what was going on except my wife.
Don Kazarian and his family have operated this speedway for nearly 3 decades, but the emergency release facility project could put a halt to his operations.
For Riverside County in the state of California, what is Lake Paris if we were to go a few miles this way?
It's a giant recreational area.
Okay.
It's probably one of the best bass fishing lakes in California, maybe west of the Mississippi. It was the second most used public facility in California behind Yosemite.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
And it's a huge body of water.
It's a nice body of water. It's man-made.
So this mound that we're literally looking at is a dam that holds that lake in.
Yes.
Back in 2005, there was a study done on Lake Paris and some of the safety aspects of this giant man-made lake, and they came to the conclusion that if there was a big seismic activity, which in California is a probability that's pretty good, this dam is in danger.
Correct.
The construction calls for a 2-mile channel to be built in order to rapidly release water from the dam in an emergency such as an earthquake.
So a number of initiatives after this 2005 study came out, the conclusion was made that they needed to do several stages of repairs.
Yeah, the fourth phase is what's called the emergency release facility.
Okay.
It's an emergency release channel where they're going to flood the land that they own and build levees so they can release 3,600 cubic feet a second of water.
Okay. So if the levees were to breach or something were to go
Or
wrong,
if they had a problem with the dam, they can lower the lake level very quickly.
and run it through this channel.
And run it through this channel to the 100-year floodplain where all the water ends up in Elsinore.
The road into the fairgrounds would be impacted by truck traffic and a portion of the grounds used to stage equipment.
We don't have anything wrong with the project.
I was going to say, I think you are a pretty straightforward guy. You would understand why they would need to do that.
Sure. I mean, the project has to be done. It's a public health and safety.
Yeah.
The Paris Auto Speedway and a family affair, which provides concessions for the events, sued the Department of Water Resources in February. Since then, they say it's been a battle to save theirs and the livelihoods of their employees and surrounding businesses.
I support the project, want the project to be done as quickly as possible. I just want my business and the other businesses on this fairground to be treated fairly by the law. And the law is very clear that they need to compensate us for the impacts so we can survive the impacts while they build the emergency release channel.
What are the impacts?
The impacts are going to be traffic.
Yeah. Okay.
When you look at the traffic studies, we're ground zero. They're eliminating our back entrance to the pit area. Evans Road is a major north-south thoroughfare. They're cutting it down to 2 lanes, which triggers level F conditions of every intersection from here to the freeway to 1.5 miles north of here.
Okay.
Because like anything in Southern California, if one block has trouble, everything around it stacks up for miles.
Where is all of this construction going to happen?
They need all of this area plus all the area over there across the road. So they're going to close this road off, so you have to go a different way to get to Paris Lake.
So literally this road behind you.
Yes.
This intersection over here.
Will cease to exist.
That's the only way people come in.
That's the only way they can enter the racetrack.
And that's all going to be shut down.
It's all going to be shut down, and then they won't be able to go down this road either.
On Tuesday, supporters in Save Paris t-shirts rallied outside the Riverside County Board of Supervisors in their bid to get the attention of local leaders and Governor Gavin Newsom.
Okay, so the traffic stacks up a little bit to get into the track. Why is this a big deal to you?
Any promoter knows ingress and egress into a speedway, a concert venue, any entertainment venue is paramount.
Yeah.
The long-term concern you have then is if a potential new fan or even a long-term fan has a bad night getting into the track, they're just not going to come back.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
So the fundamental issue then, it's not that you're against it, it's that you're seeing lost revenue.
Absolutely. I mean, the original construction schedule was 3 years. They have now informed us it's 8 to 9 years.
8 to 9 years of your 2 roads that get to this track being completely messed up.
Yeah.
In response to Eyewitness News, the Department of Water Resources sent us a statement that reads, in part, the project is still in the planning phase with an expected startup in 2023 and completion in 2025. If the project does move forward, any tenants who suffer damages as a result of the project would receive appropriate compensation.
They promised us they would give us offers for our impacts by January 15th, 2021. It didn't come till about May 17th. It was about 8% of what our appraiser thought our damages could be under our set of assumptions. And if I accept it, All I'm doing is extending the death of this speedway.
From your appraisal, are we talking millions?
Yes.
And they came back with 8%?
Yes.
So I'm guessing not millions?
There was not a meeting set up. There was not a phone call regarding this.
What are your options?
The options are try to negotiate with these people, but they won't talk to you.
Okay.
They wouldn't recognize our appraisals.
Is there a built-in part of the process that you're allowed to counter?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
In their eyes, here's the offer, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Or sue us.
So you want to show us some of the things that they pointed out that you need to work on?
Sure. I mean, one major one was, this was the original handrail that had been here for 27 years.
Yeah.
It had to be raised up basically 4 inches.
Your only option, because no one will get back to you on a passable middle ground, your only option is to sue.
We've retained legal counsel now for over 2 years.
Okay.
You had to hire what I assume is a pretty expensive law firm to handle all of this.
Yes.
Who represents the Department of Water Resources?
Any state agency is represented by the State Attorney General's office.
So the group of folks here at the Paris Fairgrounds are going against the Attorney General's office of the state of California.
Correct.
So this was the previous handrail.
This was the previous handrail.
This is what makes it approved.
Yes. Just the handrails to do on both sides were a little over $16,000.
Okay, sure.
Who else does the Attorney General represent?
Any state agency, CAL FIRE, California Construction Authority. You sue any agency in the state, the Attorney General's office, they're assigned the case.
Right.
Okay, in 1996, we had a certified welder build a ladder to OSHA standards, 12-inch centers. CAL FIRE didn't like the ladder. It wasn't until we sued that I've received this year alone more inspections than the 27 years combined.
Huh. So we actually had to move the interview to the bleachers just to get some shade because the tent that was here last time we were here with you was gone.
That was from the fire marshal's first inspection back in March when she was going to red tag this. State fire marshal comes in the week before our World of Outlaws show, and she gets out of her car and she says, "I'm here to red tag your podium." I go, "Red tag my podium?"
That?
That's what I thought it was.
Okay.
I go, "What do you think's the podium?"
Yeah.
And she goes, "Where you run your races. I'm going to red tag it."
Wait, she means like the radio booth?
Yeah, the whole structure. She goes, "I'm going to red tag that structure."
Okay.
I go, "Well, that means you're putting the racetrack out of business."
So this fairground model, if we want to call it that, is fairly common, especially in California. What do you think the future is for this kind of dealing now that we've seen how convoluted it can get?
I think you're going to see probably half the tracks go away. I think you're going to see all the agreements renegotiated down the line. I feel for these guys, but the good will survive, hopefully, and the people that don't have deep pockets won't.
You're not sure how much you want to keep going with this if this turns into a continued problem, correct?
Here's the deal. If they start that project and we haven't settled or won our lawsuit, and I have 35 to 40% reduction in revenue, I'm gone within a year.
So why can't you just pick up, take this whole thing and leave and go somewhere else?
This property is owned by the state. Once you sign the lease, you build it, you bolt it to the ground. I can't unbolt anything here.
Yeah.
And this leads to the larger issue, which is we started thinking about this and realizing, holy crap, almost every dirt track in California is on a state fairground.
They're either on a fairground or an Indian reservation.
It's an odd time right now for California fairgrounds in that sort of model. Your track, Doherty Speedway in Indiana, is a private track, no kind of fairgrounds. Are you thankful that you don't have to deal with the fairground kind of mentality?
Absolutely. With having experience dealing with fairgrounds, private ownership of a racetrack is the only way to go if you're going to run a racetrack.
It seems to me like Ventura is kind of its own ecosystem in terms of what exists here. If you look to our left or to our right, it's a lot of agriculture. But there's also some really nice homes here. You've got Santa Barbara just a few miles up the road. You've got Los Angeles on the other side. So you're kind of sandwiched between some very high-end areas.
It goes from one extreme to the other. There's some very expensive homes. There's a lot of manufacturers that manufacture speed equipment have ended up here. Fairgrounds has been here over 100 years. It used to be a third of a mile horse track, and the horse stalls were on the beach.
Yeah.
So you've been at Ventura Raceway running it for 44 years.
Yes, sir. And I knew zero. I couldn't spell promoter. I didn't know what I was doing. I wanted my dad to be able to race. And my dad meant a lot to me. And I'm here 44 years later, not much smarter.
Most people know you as Brad Sweet, the badass sprint car driver. However, we're here with you because you're also a track promoter.
Yes.
How long has this been the thing?
The first time I did a race was 2016 at Placerville. I didn't know why the World of Outlaws didn't come here. You know, I was kind of young and naive. It was my first taking a step out of the pit area and understanding there's this whole other business.
Right.
And it was successful. And we made money, and, you know, it was what kind of opened my eyes to looking at other places. And I always had an interest in Chico because that's where I literally grew up. And what gave me the passion for racing was going to Gold Cup every year.
And Gold Cup is the signature event of Chico, silver dollar racetrack.
It was a crown jewel on the World of Outlaw Tour for a lot of years.
Right.
You know, my family and I camped up there for 7 days, and that was better than Christmas for me.
You are the promoter of the racetrack here in Tulare. Can you just, for our sake, just say, I own this town?
Yeah, I own this town, yeah.
Yes! What is Tulare all about?
Tulare's an all agricultural center, basically. It has more cows than any other county in the United States.
So you are like the Wisconsin of the United States?
Yeah, it was. We took over from Wisconsin. Wisconsin was the number one, and
really?
California now is, basically.
So within Tulare is this fairground. So what all happens on the fairground outside of the track?
Well, they rent the buildings, and they have weddings, and then they have twice a year they have ag events with animals.
Even before you came here 30 years ago, this was sort of a small staple of the area.
Yes, it's always been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Your uncle loses his son in a farming accident out here. And this became a family project as a way to just rebond everybody.
And it's still a family project. I run it, but my family's all involved in it.
Merced Speedway. Sell me on this track.
Well, we've put in the work here. So the boss is all about making it smooth. We want to make it the raciest, obviously smoothest, fastest track that people want to come to.
So the people that live in Merced, what do they do here?
Not much.
Credits.
And they built a UC, and it's actually kind of grown.
UC is in a college campus here, one of the state schools.
So they built a UC here. So construction's huge around here. Almonds. It's one of the lower economy counties in the nation.
Wheel to Wheel Raceway is located in Victorville, California, in San Bernardino County. Southern California, but I think most San Bernardino folks would not consider themselves LA or San Diego.
No. I've lived here for probably about 35 years. It used to be, you call it rednecks or something like that. Now it's a little more LA, unfortunately.
You're welcome.
So you started Wheel to Wheel Raceway.
Yes.
Over 20 years ago. Why?
Just to get the kids from the community into racing and keep it like low butt.
So why would you care about what kids are doing in the community?
Keep them out of trouble.
Is that a self-fulfilling thing because you got into trouble?
Kids can find trouble.
In the desert? With dirt bikes?
And you can do it, yeah. Racing is good for kids.
Yeah.
I can tell you, it kept me on a good track for a lot of years, even till the day right now. I mean, I'm 50 years old, so I've been doing it for a couple days.
He's not 50 years old. He's not.
Don't.
He's not.
I'm so tired of this. Who controls the fairgrounds right now?
It's the state fairgrounds.
So this is a state fairground.
Here's the way the thing goes.
Okay.
There's a board. The board is appointed by the governor.
Yeah.
Obviously, California is more unique in that aspect than a lot of other places in the country. There's some goods and bads to that, you know.
If I owned my own racetrack in, let's say, the Midwest, and I wanted to sell it and just keep the money from the property value, I could do that. Are you capable of doing that here?
We cannot sell the property itself.
If I own a private track, I can use the entire facility as a line of credit. Can you?
No.
If I own my own racetrack, I could hold any kind of event I want, even if it has nothing to do with car racing. Can you do that here?
No.
Yes.
I wouldn't say yes or no. I don't know.
Okay. I'll give you a good example. They call me up and they go, I want to film a commercial for Continental.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and I want to film this commercial.
Who is this? Who called you?
We want to film a commercial for Continental, and it's going to be automotive oriented.
Yeah.
You got to call the fairgrounds, and they got to arrange it through them.
You cannot negotiate your own commercial contracts of any sort.
Not for filming.
If I own my own racetrack, I'm not just restricted to ticket sales. I can have revenue streams during a racing event any way I want. Can you do that here?
Yes, to a point.
Your exclusive income is tickets. It's not from parking. It's not from concessions. But as also an event manager, so to speak, to promote things that create an event, such as the quality of the food, the type of food, you have no say in that.
I don't have concession rights.
If I owned my own racetrack in the Midwest, I could put banners all around the outside of the property to market whatever I wanted going on in here. Are you allowed to do that here?
No.
Yes.
You can. He owns this town, that's why.
You know who you're talking to?
If this hits a point where for somebody like Don here at Paris decides this is not worth it, what would that mean to the community that loses?
Oh gosh, the racing community, this would be a terrible loss. A terrible loss.
Paris aside, the fairground model here in California, everyone that we have met with is very concerned about the future of this. And the number one thing we're hearing about is most fairground tracks are very revenue restricted because of the model of the fairground agreements, and that revenue is declining.
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
I think we've missed 2 or 3 generations of people, number one, that want to participate. They don't want to get involved in stock car racing, next year.
But the idea of a declining car culture that's nationwide. That's global.
That's nationwide.
So why is California struggling so bad then?
There's too many other things to do in California. This is not Indiana.
What are the 5 things Ventura Raceway is threatened by?
I think just one, income. If the income falls off, it's done. We do not have the same customer base that we had before. It's all different.
There seems to be a belief that the California scene is not as strong as it is in other parts of the country. Do you think that's true?
Yes. You go and you turn on a TV of one of those tracks out there, and they're just flooded with people.
So you watch Eldora or Knoxville or any of these places?
Just the beginning of the year, I spent the same amount of money on advertising for monster trucks as I did the Outlaws, and we had more people here for monster trucks.
Oh. It's way more expensive to live in California. You pay for the weather. It's extremely hard to get over the hump here. And I think just you have to pick and choose your battles of what you're going to do with your money. And it's more expensive out here for us to run the track, so our pricing is probably higher than other parts of the country. The way that culture is moving around out here, it's just car racing isn't super popular, talked about, especially the next generation coming up. It's not something that a lot of people are super into.
There are a lot of theories, though, as to why racing in California isn't as popular as it is in other parts of the country. The big thing everybody keeps saying here is that it's California. You can go skiing, you can go mountain climbing, you can go surfing. Whereas in, what are you going to do in the middle of Missouri, Iowa?
It's more of the being able to turn your TV on. To me, it's the streaming thing.
Okay.
I've gotten into this a lot. The streaming's killing local stuff.
Right.
We're at Silver Dollar Speedway where the fast and the furious get down and dirty. This is for you, David Tarter. We go green.
Do you guys subscribe to any streaming services here?
Yes.
To dirt racing?
Yes.
So there is an opinion among dirt track promoters, not just Paris, but all across the state, that streaming providers are compromising ticket sales. As a fan, what do you think of that opinion?
Honestly, I think it is to a point. But if you're a race fan, you're going to come see it live.
The first ever USAC Western State Midget.
Off the turn 4, on the line, at the line, give it to Sanders.
We're not going to live stream out of here our sprint car races next year.
Why is that?
My revenue dropped by 35% because people stay home.
And you believe that's because of streaming?
Absolutely.
What's killing automotive things right now is Flow comes on. Flow does a great job.
$12.99 a month. You can sit home and have your buddies come over that you used to go to the racetrack with.
Right.
Look at your 85-inch TV, pull your 85-cent beer out, eat at home, and see this place live.
It kills your crowd. After a while, they can sit home. They can have a pizza from Toppers. They can have a beer or whatever. They can do whatever they want and watch it. That's not doing some of us any good.
Why is there no streaming from any of your races?
I highly feel that's a lot of the reason why nowadays a lot of spectators don't show up to events, because why, when it's $20 a month on TV? The problem is if the stream company don't pay me, then I lose out 100%.
During COVID, there was certain streaming service that helped all of us tracks survive. They gave us money to put on races with no fans. We couldn't do it without them, so it worked during COVID. COVID ends, then they said, you know what, the money's not with the tracks, it's the series. They have every West Coast series wrapped up now.
The amount of money, the revenue they give you is nothing to speak of. So you get $0 basically to lose 30% of your crowd.
So Flow pays USAC. USAC then gives you whatever they believe your part of putting on the event is. How is that not a USAC issue and not a Flow issue?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So if USAC runs an event here, you get $1,000 of the sort of streaming purse.
Yeah, off the
right,
purse,
but that's
just
through USAC, not the streaming provider.
That's through USAC.
But we keep hearing it's Flow's fault or it's Dirt Vision's fault. We don't hear it's USAC's fault or it's whoever's doing the deal.
Yeah, and it's the series that needs to take care of it with the streaming people.
Right.
I want to challenge you on that. I don't have the data that you have. I only know what I know from the history of sports and entertainment. The idea of live broadcasting in some capacity, TV or internet or whatever else is coming down the road, every sport or every form of live entertainment has always been terrified of a live broadcast. Even going back to like the NFL 40 years ago.
Sure.
And in pretty much all of those cases, that fear has over time proven probably not valid. I understand the idea that you can sit at home, but I don't see who would watch a race that wouldn't want to go see it live.
Somebody that can't afford $6.40 a gallon of gasoline, that's living on a fixed income, which I'm going to say 60% of our sprint car fans are.
Okay.
Somebody that drives in over an hour and a half to get here.
So streaming then becomes a symptom of a much larger problem, which is the race culture of today. It's a working class that, between the cost of gas or simply the time it takes, especially in California traffic, to get to an event, it's just time people can't afford as work schedules become longer and money becomes more precious.
Correct.
A common theme that we've encountered on this trip is streaming and how it affects the racing and the fan attendance. You're pretty smart about this stuff. You race on Flow a lot. You race on Dirt Vision a lot. What's your take as a promoter and a driver?
It's here. I mean, it's not going away.
Yeah, right.
You're not going to go backwards. You're not going to eliminate technology. It's going to be a part of the sport, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
So you got to figure out where you fit in. Maybe now you need to go back to the drawing board because this is part. Maybe you need to figure out how to negotiate with a streaming service to get money brought into your racetrack. And then maybe you need to build an event that's a big deal to a streaming service so that they pay you to be able for the rights to that event. You know, the smart promoters are going to obviously do better than the old school guys that aren't used to streaming being a part of it.
So you're not scared of streaming at all?
No. Think about it. If the people can't afford to go, and you can get live streaming to pay you a percentage, you're going to pick up the tickets that you weren't going to sell anyway.
Okay.
That's the way I look at it.
So you're saying that person was choosing not to go anyway, probably wasn't going to come. So that little bit of revenue you might get from the streaming provider was more than you were going to get.
Yeah. Why is streaming working?
We got to acknowledge there's a number of people that aren't at the racetrack watching. I mean, that's the only way we're going to build the purses up, because there's only 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 seats at these racetracks. You know, everything costs more to get to the racetrack. We can't keep only paying the purse off of those people, especially if there's more people watching now.
Right.
Well, a lot of these other tracks we've been to do have weekly events. That's kind of what they're just trudging through. Could you actually do that if you needed to with your racing schedule?
We could do a weekly schedule. If that was what we thought was better for the racers and the fans, and it was more profitable for the racetrack, then we would do that.
Yeah.
But we're learning that's not the case. Keeping the fan a little bit more hungry, keeping the racer more hungry.
Yeah.
Our car counts are way bigger than probably any other track in the country. Just a standard Friday night show is not great, you know, but our bigger 2-day events that we're trying to kind of build up and kind of strategically place through the season, they show signs of being really successful.
When we talked to Brad Sweet, he's looking at going a different direction with like a smaller schedule, so it kind of makes a bigger event. Is that something that you're doing here?
Oh, I did. I was the first one in California to do it.
Oh, so you look at Brad Sweet and you're like, listen to me, kid.
No, I don't know. Well, I did it years ago. What happened, we started that weekly, did everything, and just worked your butt off. And then just, people don't have that extra money, that much money. You got certain people do, most of them don't. So basically, that's when I started special events. So that's how this has always been a special event track.
You're a business guy. You understand the idea of supply and demand. The demand simply wasn't there if you had this ample supply.
Correct.
So you cut that back.
Yeah.
So the end of 2021 comes. What is that look in the mirror that you go through?
Once I sit back and I look and I'm like, okay, what's the economy going to go to? What's the political landscape? What kind of repercussions am I going to have? You just start to think and wonder, okay, at what point is it going to put me at risk financially to put out $50,000 just to open the racetrack and then them come in one swoop and just say, yeah, you can't operate? Do I really want to continue putting my neck out there to operate a racetrack that is just going to continually get bashed? And the aha moment is when I look in the mirror and it's coming in New Year and I'm like, do I really want to put my money and my time and everything else out there just for other people to not be happy and bash me and everything I do? And it's like, I don't need the racetrack.
COVID isn't the reason that Doherty Speedway doesn't have races coming up.
No.
If you don't keep doing this here at Paris, if you yourself say, you know what, I'm tired, I'm actually going to retire, I'm not going to do that, what happens to Paris?
It probably dies.
Who's coming next to run this track?
Some idiot.
Or nobody.
Or nobody.
Yeah.
Or nobody.
This started off for Sean and I as like, let's look into why these aren't doing that well, why they're not as popular as some of the tracks back on the East Coast. And what it's turned into is, this is a labor of love for you guys that run these tracks. Without you and guys like Johnny Aiden or Jim Naylor, those tracks might not just keep going if they retire. This to me is the big eye-opener, because the way you explained it to me is that this is a proposed modification hauling route for them to be able to move things back and forth, but it's also supposed to be used for emergency vehicles.
Yeah, they designated it in the addendum that this can be used for fire trucks, ambulances, any emergency vehicle that's trying to get past the construction zone.
Now, why would you need a separate route?
Because they know the traffic on the remote expressway is just going to be so horrible.
And what was the reason that you think this is going to affect your racetrack?
You can't get here.
The traffic.
Traffic.
Are you familiar with what's going on at Paris Auto Speedway?
Yes, sir.
How do you feel about that?
I really am upset. The Kazarian family spent a ton of money they could have spent a lot of other places to put in this speedway, a Class A speedway. For them to be treated the way they are is terrible, because they can keep the racetrack running, but the circumstances might be you trying to push mud through a screen door.
So you think the claims that Don has about random inspections?
Yeah, they're doing that to him.
You think that's 100% valid?
No,
without hesitation, you
Here's
think
how this works. This year we had a brand new state fire marshal.
Okay.
And he got to make a name for himself. He come down here and raise holy shit around here. You know what I'm saying?
When did this happen?
This happened in September.
Don Kazarian at Paris Auto Speedway is dealing with a lot of surprise inspections and compliance issues that did not exist prior, and he firmly believes this is due to the fact that he started fighting with the state over a lot of issues related to this. Does this seem valid to you?
Absolutely. I mean, you got to pick and choose your battles, you know. I mean, at the end of the day, you don't own the land. You know, the state owns it, or the county owns it, and the city manages it, or, you know, Fair Board manages it. They can make your life hard, absolutely.
We're filming this in 2022. If somebody watches this in 2030, where's this sport going to be?
I'm not too sure how much in California, to be truthful, because, I mean, hopefully there's a lot of people still like myself and Donnie and all these promoters, Jim Naylor. I mean, you do get burned out, you know,
Yeah.
and that's the thing is, like, racers need to understand, it's like, hey, you got to make it easy on somebody, because dude, it's easy. I can tell you, sometimes I just want to say, F it.
I've tried everything you can think of as far as how do I put people in these seats? How do we get them here? How do we get them in here?
I think you're going to see what happened with Larson and
Brad Sweet.
Yes, I think you're going to see more of that.
Wait, in what sense?
In what sense? The one tracks are going to be left behind. Going to be people like that pick it up. Business people pick it up. You know what I'm saying? Not one individual trying to run them. They can make it work.
Right.
If you're trying to make a living off it, you're on the wrong business.
To me, I'm at the beginning, so if I was 20, 30 years into this and I used to have big crowds and fighting with the Fair Board, then yeah, maybe I would have a different perception of it. But obviously I'm, you know, the optimistic person right now.
If you could describe California dirt track racing in one word, what would it be?
Exciting.
Challenging.
Larry.
You could say thrilling, you could say a lot of things, you could say desperate, but it's got facets that we need to discuss.
It needs a little revitalizing.
If you could describe the future of Paris Auto Speedway in one word, what would it be?
Cautiously optimistic. Well, that's 2 words.
You ever had tacos before in Mexico?
Yes.
Do you think they have cheese on tacos in Mexico?
Yes.
Here in farm country, California, a lot of Mexican restaurants?
A lot.
Yeah. Do they serve cheese on tacos here?
Yes.
Have you been to Mexico?
Hell yeah.
Of course. In Mexico where you've been, does cheese go on tacos?
Yes.
So here in Merced, California, it seems like quite a big Hispanic population.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you say you can get cheese on tacos here?
Absolutely.
Interesting. Okay, so if somebody from New Hampshire, I'm going to repeat, New Hampshire, said that you cannot get cheese on tacos for them to be authentic, what would you think to that?
He must be from New Hampshire.
Hey, Will Turner, cheese does go on tacos.
Hey, Will Turner, cheese goes on tacos.
Hey, Will Turner, cheese can go on tacos.
Hey, Will Turner, cheese does go on tacos.
If you're ever in Tulare, I will find you.
We're on a road trip.